Hi everyone, my name is David Neville. I'm co-founder and CEO of jumpAgrade. Thanks a million for joining our study skills seminar. We're really excited about adding things to the jumpAgrade offering outside of working with your tutor that will be of help. And study skills in this seminar is the first in a series of seminars that we'll be offering to you guys as jumpAgrade users that will hopefully help you prepare for exams over the coming months. So I'm going to dive right in, and to get started, what we're going to look at is this is all about how to just get started in terms of having a healthy kind of study habits and routine and schedule. So we're going to look at organising study and study scheduling. We're going to look at motivation when it comes to study and how to build study habits. Before I go any further though, the most important thing before anything related to grades or studying or school is looking after yourself. Taking care of yourself has to come number one. And like everything can follow afterwards, but there's things that you'll have to do to take care of yourself when you're the most important thing. You do that by sleeping well, by exercising, by eating well, and getting a chance to switch off, to de-stress if you're feeling stressed, and to have some fun. So first and foremost, we really hope that you're keeping that stuff front of mind, and then the study skills can come into play afterwards. And the last thing I'll say then as well before we really start is that everything from here on is advice that can help, but just do take it with a pinch of salt. Maybe you're doing some of these things already. Maybe you find other things that are really effective. Don't try and change something that's working really well for you. And maybe do none of these things. If that's the case, try and pick a few that you think will be most effective and start to build them into what you're doing. But don't try and take everything on board. It's too much to take in and do all at once. So take the bits from it that you think are most effective. Okay, organised study. So for every minute spent organising, an hour is earned. I like that quote. So starting off, staying in the same place and working at the same time can really help build a routine that's kind of avoiding distractions. So try to study in the same place and at about the same time each day. And that place should hopefully be a quiet place with all your kind of stuff that you need, supplies, pens, calculator, etc. That you have that all laid out in front of you and ready to go. Being set up in that quiet place and having a place to go will really help just kind of build that routine further. And hopefully that kind of environment or that place that you are going to, think of trying to make it that it's a nice kind of, you don't want it too warm because you start to get too tired and groggy. You want the lighting to be pretty good because if you're straining your eyes too much, you're going to end up getting tired as well. So just a couple of things to consider when you're working towards that ideal place for you to be productive when studying. Now, an interesting one here is a little tip around the environment and distractions. So there's things that you can do to reduce the steps between you and productive behavior. So consider these two different environments. The first one, you open the door to the sitting room and it's really noisy. There's loads of stuff going on. The TV is on, there's notifications buzzing on your phone, there's a laptop sitting on the table, it's all messy everywhere. That's a bit hectic. Environment number two, you open the door to the sitting room. It's lovely and quiet. There's no TV on, there's no remote for the TV around, your phone is on airplane mode, and there's a clear table ready for you to start studying. There's a really big difference between the two of those in terms of what are you best able to get started in studying with, environment one or environment two. It's definitely environment two. So this is even something to mention to the parents at home as well, that you want to have an environment that reduces the steps between you and doing that productive behavior of studying. So if that means the TV is off and your phone is on airplane mode and there's no laptop and the table is clear, you're reducing those steps. Next one, study scheduling. Either you run the day or the day runs you. Another good quote. So how do you work out what different things are going on in your life in terms of the time that you have for study? So when I say break down time and schedule study, this isn't just about breaking down the subjects you have and how much hours you have in the evening to study, but also think of what else do you have going on in your life. So is like what time do you get home from school? Do you do after school study? You have to have your dinner. You have to tidy your room every now and then. You'd spend time with family and friends. You might have training or music lessons. So add all of these things into your schedule, because there's no point saying you're going to study for 3 to 4 hours on a Wednesday evening if you don't get home until 8:30 because you've got training and you have to collect your brother and sister on the way home. Then you have to think of what other things are going to be on those different days that will take away from the study time or mean you'll have to rejig things. So do a full breakdown of what you have going on a week-to-week basis, and then you'll have a clear picture of where your study fits in within that. Now, choosing study blocks that suit you is the idea of what best suits you in terms of how you apply yourself when you get working on something. So that could be, some people like to work in longer runs of maybe 2.5, 3 hours at a time. Other people like to do it in shorter blocks and take more regular breaks. So are you the person who might be better off doing 45 minutes and then maybe taking a short 5 to 10 minute break and going back and doing another 45-minute block? Or are you someone who's better at doing an uninterrupted block of a couple of hours and getting a run at the stuff and then taking maybe a longer break afterwards? So choose the one that suits you best. And then the last one is when you're creating that kind of study schedule or plan, work backwards from the key dates. So this isn't just about working backwards from the exams in June, but also think of other things coming up like the orals and the orals or the mocks, and having them marked in your study plan or working backwards from those dates, because then you know the kind of milestones that you'll be working towards. So you'll be able to do lots of oral work in the week, let's say going up to the oral, but then you'll obviously want to switch afterwards and focus on other things because you have that done now. So think of working back from those key dates and building your schedule in line with those. Now, another little tip, and this is called habit stacking. So this is where you take a current habit and you stack it with a new habit. So I have 2 examples here. After dinner, what if you have a habit where you make a cup of tea every evening after dinner? So the new habit now is, while the kettle is boiling, you open a book for the subject that you're going to start studying on. That's all it is. So you've got the kettle on, you open the book, it could be the maths book or your biology book, whatever it might be. You open that book, you go back and finish your cup of tea. But now when you sit down, you know exactly what subject you're starting on. It's not about going through your journal or finding out where to start. You've already done that because you've got this new habit on top of your old one of making a cup of tea. Another one, when you come home from school and you throw your bag inside at your desk or at the table, that's what you do every day. But how about as you throw your school bag down, you write down the 3 things that you want to study that evening, or maybe the 3 things you want to get done. So it could be maybe an important piece of homework, you want to revise a certain subject, or you want to do an exam question in another subject. So if you were to just have a piece of paper in your desk, and as you throw down your bag, you jot down those 3 things that are fresh in your mind after coming home from school, that means you can go and have your dinner, you can have a quick break before you get started again, but you've already planned in your head what are the 3 main things you want to cover. So that's the idea of habit stacking, adding something new to an already existing habit. Okay, so next one is managing your time. So how do you make the most of your time when you are studying? And the first thing I'm going to start with is setting goals. But it's really important to think of starting small. So we don't want you thinking that you have to set crazy goals of doing loads and loads of hours and like really killing yourself for a couple of weeks because it's not sustainable. So the idea of setting a really small goal, I'm going to come back to this in a little bit, but a small goal means that you can maintain that and do more some days, but at the bare minimum you'll do that. So imagine, let's say 5 days out of 7 each week, you're going to say you're going to do at least 1 hour of study. That seems quite attainable, 5 hours in a week. But the idea being that there'll be some days where you're going to do plenty more and you might do 3-4 hours or more in a day. But there's going to be other days where you're not too productive or you're not really feeling it or you've a lot of other stuff going on, you're home late from a match. But if you can consistently get through just that 1 hour of study on 5 days out of the 7, that's a really good attainable goal to aim towards and you're not going to burn yourself out. Then we mentioned the idea of taking breaks, whether it's a 45-minute block and then a 5 to 10 minute break in the back of it. But an important thing would be think of being disciplined within those breaks. So set a timer on your phone. So even if you get scrolling through Instagram or whatever and you can get distracted, you don't want it to run into 20 minutes or half an hour and then you're kind of playing catch up on the rest of the study plan you had. Set a timer on your phone. And even as you go back into your study then, why don't you send a quick message to your friend on Snapchat just to say, look, I'm going to be working for the next 45 minutes. I'll chat to you on my break. that's a kind of good accountability to have given them that, okay, I'm going to be working for 45 minutes. You've told someone else you're going to be doing it. Then you can put your head down and put the phone away for those 45 minutes before your next break, and you can check in with them again. And the last one is about mixing subjects by how much you enjoy them. So this is when you're studying. You don't want to go starting off with all the subjects that you enjoy the most and then leaving all the ones that you enjoy the least at the end, because when you have less energy, it's going to be harder to do the subjects that you don't enjoy as much or that you struggle on a bit more. So try to balance it, that you might do one of your favorite subjects and then one of the subjects you find most difficult, and then go back into another subject that you really enjoy. So you're kind of mixing it between different types of subjects that you enjoy and don't, versus just trying to do all your favorite ones and all your least favorite ones. Right, so this is back to the idea of kind of like small attainable goals, not trying to do crazy stuff. So if you look at line A, this is like a hard and consistent habit where you're doing loads and loads of work at one stage, but then you drop off again, you're not doing as much as you plan for yourself, and you're kind of feeling disgruntled. Then you're back up again doing crazy loads of work, but then you fall off the wagon again. That's really hard to sustain because you're aiming for like crazy standards to keep up with. But whereas line B is more an easy, consistent habit. So that's the idea of maybe it's an hour a day for 5 days in a week. Like that's not a massive ask. And there's going to be days where you do extra, like I mentioned earlier, but at least if you're doing that bare minimum, you've now got a very healthy habit. And even on the days where you are feeling tired, you know what, you probably still manage the hour, or it could be one of the days of the 7 where you don't work. We should be able to hit that kind of goal. And that way you really build a really healthy habit, and you can do more on other days, but you've got a nice, consistent habit built up. So think about it like that. Now, motivation, one of the ones I enjoy. A quote here for this. A good plan executed now is better than the perfect plan executed next week. Right, so some of this comes back to the clean space in the same place for the habit of studying. So again, keeping the area tidy and like not having clutter around, or having that kind of space that you keep coming back to for a productive environment definitely helps you motivate yourself, because you know when you sit down in that space, it's like, right, okay, it's time to be productive, it's time to study. This one I really like. Tick things off and record your wins. So as you cover, whether it's a topic within a subject or exam questions, tick them off somewhere so you have a record and you can see that list building of all the stuff that you've done, but also recording your wins. So this is the idea of what are the things that you're proud of or that were really positive in relation to the subject or subjects that you're covering. So it could be a nice comment from your jumpAgrade tutor that you're doing really good work or that you've made great improvement. It could be a grade that you've got in your exams in class, or it could be the fact that you managed to get through an exam question that you had been stuck on before and now you actually managed it and got it right. It could be a screenshot, or it could be photos of these in a separate album in your phone, or it could be a little note that you jot down somewhere just building up that list of wins. But it's always good to come back and check through them, because now you can see the progress you're making, and that'll help motivate you as well to see that you are doing really well. And then the last one is, there's going to be days where things aren't feeling good, or you're just not in the mood, or you're getting stuck and you're getting frustrated. Don't worry about it. Every student comes into that situation every now and then. The big thing is that you don't let that kind of throw you off kilter altogether and lose the run of things. So that's where sharing problems and chatting with others is really important, whether it's a friend, someone in school, it could be someone in the family, or if there's any way we can help out as well, we're always open to things like that if there's anything we can help with. So don't think it's only on you when you're the only one feeling pressure. So many students are feeling under pressure, but we want to try and make you feel under as little amount of pressure as possible. Okay, we're on towards the end now. The last kind of section is around study habits. So a quote for this one is that all big things come from small beginnings. And again, that's back to the idea of doing something attainable on an often a regular basis and building from there. So I like to think of this one as objects in motion tend to stay in motion. So the big thing here is that once you get started and you start to build that habit, that's when you start to see that you're making progress. Because once that habit is formed, you're much more likely to stick with it. So the big thing is about getting started. So don't feel overwhelmed to do loads. Just get started with something that's manageable and building it from there. So getting started now as well will help reduce the pressure around cramming or feeling under prepared when it comes to exam time. So we're really doing, the fact that you're using jumpAgrade now is a very good sign that you're thinking that way. But putting the work in now will really help reduce the stress or pressures when it comes to exam time later in the year. So it is worth putting in the smaller amount of work now. It'll stand you down the line. The next one is around planning well. So following a plan and you build a habit. So the thing about it is if you've mapped out the subjects and the topics that you want to cover, and it kind of takes away the thinking. So when you sit down at that desk, you go to your plan and you know what to do. It's not like you have to decide what you're going to study every night you sit down. It's already mapped out for you. And so even when you're not kind of feeling 100%, or if you're a bit tired, you don't have to do that thinking of what am I going to study. You've got it listed out there for you, and you can get just stuck straight into it. And the last one, I really like this one, is the idea of rewarding the process, not the outcome. So you'll not only benefit at exam time, but the idea is that if you study for an hour a day for 5 days a week, that's the process. The outcome will be the grade you get if you've done all that work leading up for the next 17 weeks from now until the exams. Those 5 hours will build up very quickly, so that you've done a huge chunk of work before the exams. So what you've done now is you've rewarded yourself for studying to your to sticking to your plan of building the habit of studying a certain amount of hours each week, and reward yourself for that. It doesn't have to be a material thing. It could be reward yourself with time off with friends, or going somewhere, going to the cinema or something. But think of it, it doesn't have to be that if you don't have your exam result yet, that you can't give yourself a reward. If you put in a good week and you stuck to your plan, well done, reward yourself for that. That's really good, because not only will you hopefully get a much better result come exam time, but you'll also have proven to yourself that you can apply yourself to something difficult and you can do well in the back of it. And that's a huge achievement. And then the very last thing I'm going to finish with, so this is the idea of the power of tiny gains. So I think this kind of illustrates it really well, the idea of doing something small and helping that build up. So if you're to get 1% better every day, the knock-on effect that has compounds to have a really high impact further down the line. Whereas if you get 1% less, 1% worse every day, the impact is way, way less. So that, coming back to that idea of getting started now and building a healthy habit of an attainable kind of study goal and habit, the knock-on effect that has down the line will be huge. So try to build something in now that you'll stick at regularly, and think of the knock-on effect and how happy you'll be with that further down the line when you've all that work put in, but in a sustainable way, rather than waiting and trying to cram and do crazy amount of work later down the line. So that's a cool way to kind of show that the work you put in now will be worth far more to you than putting it in later on or trying to cram it in. All right, that pretty much wraps it up for us. I hope you found it useful. I enjoyed it myself, I have to say, but I hope you did get some benefit from it. If you do have a question, please do ask us. You can send us a message on the website on jumpAgrade.com. You can add a note to your tutor in your submission maybe next week if you have a question around study skills that you think they'd be able to help with, or you'd like to run by the team. No problem at all. And you can also email us, guys, and we hope to see you again soon. On the website on jumpAgrade.com. You can add a note to your tutor in your submission maybe next week if you have a question around study skills that you think they'd be able to help with, or you'd like to run by the team. No problem at all. And you can also email us. We hope to see you again soon.